This is the 100X podcast, and today we are charting unknown waters with Jordan and Eureka. Welcome, Jordan. I am genuinely fascinated by what you guys are building, and I cannot wait to get into some of the nitty-gritty that maybe people have never heard about before. Tell me about Eureka and what you have just put your mind to creating.
Imagine that all of a sudden an eighth continent just appeared. An entire North America-sized eighth continent, full of nothing but empty space, rich with all of the resources that it would have. And that instead of even that we could all sail there together back in 1850 and explore that continent in first person, on the ground, in real time, at real 1850 speeds, just walking around the thing and looking around, saying, look at that over there. And together build the entirety of a new functioning nation on it. That is Eureka. That's what we're building.
Before we dig into everything this episode has to offer, we want to highlight the awesome partners who sponsor this podcast and make it possible for us to work full-time on 100X. They're legends, and we appreciate them for supporting us. Let me tell you about our friends at games.gg. And when I say friends, I really do mean that they are friends of 100X. Their CEO, Omar, was one of my first introductions to Web3 Gaming, and we're OG holders of their Gamers Lobby collection. We love these guys. They're essentially the super app of Web3 Gaming. One of the cool things they've cooked up is a gaming quest system. You complete free quests for cool games, anything from retweeting a post to beating a mission in a new game, and then you get rewards, tokens, skins, whitelist access, all kinds of things. Currently, they have active quests for Boss Fighters, Space Mavericks, in the Game Awards 2024. Go slam those quests for free at games.gg right now. Let's talk about Reactor, a proof-of-work blockchain that introduces a brand new economic model, deep-in mining software, a gaming distribution platform, the RKR token, and their game, Minions of Steel, that's proving their thesis by seamlessly integrating proof-of-work token mining with gaming. Through allowing players to mine with their own GPU while playing, not only do they essentially make gaming free, they make software free, and they present an AI-proof income for everyone. If you want to take a glimpse into the future and get there early, explore Reactor's ecosystem at the link below. Phenomenal, dude. Is it a game because you guys love games? Is it a game because you love the idea of gamification? Like, I feel like walking into the story that you're telling feels a little bit like a video game, but it also feels a little bit like the idea of like the sovereign nation state that crypto nerds like us have been obsessed about forever. And I'm curious, like, where the idea from this, or where the idea for this even came from in the first place. Like, was it always intended to be a game, or were you trying to create something new in crypto and then it became a game?
I think this is a moment in history that represents maybe the greatest opportunity that a mass of people have ever had. So is blockchain, right? Like, I could have ended at it, and so is Eureka, right? Because that perfectly describes both why we're all here in Web3 and why everyone was there in the gold rush, right? This was a moment in time where people flung themselves across an entire continent because there was free gold. All you had to do was get yourself there. And it was just in the ground for the taking. Anyone could access it if you just put yourself in the place. And based on nothing but rumors, right, at first, hundreds of thousands of people threw themselves on a multi-month journey of incredible risk and danger to get to this place where there was gold in the hills. What better game to build as a blockchain game to potentially convey that core idea to everyone, which is the opportunity that we are all here in Web3 Gaming specifically for, right? And so I think this just kind of feels like the perfect game to fit what it's built with.
Man, I just got chills with you just describing like the idea behind the game. And I don't know, this is no shade to anybody else. I don't know that any game's idea has given me chills before. So that's a win.
I think that's how you get people,
Yeah.
right? Is the concept. And that's why this isn't exactly what you asked, but I really fundamentally believe that how Web3 gaming is going to succeed isn't by hiding the Web3 parts, is by making it so obvious as to why they're there and what the opportunity posed by them is, right? And so I think the best possible game for that is one that hearing about the game already communicates, like in its just even its concept, communicates that you're there for opportunity. And then blockchain just happens to be the tech that's used to make it that opportunity real.
So a quick question here for anyone who has maybe never heard of Eureka, and I think that's very hard because you guys have been all over everybody's timeline. Everybody has been in search for these nuggets. But for anyone who maybe has not heard of Eureka, the concept, what kind of game will it be? What can people expect when they reach this 8th continent?
So they should expect a real-time, completely photorealistic experience of being a person standing on the ground in this new continent. We have a 3D game map that is very lightweight, that is under the surface, where everything is actually there, every tree and every rock and every hill and every single character, player, everything is there. But we take a screenshot of what your character sees and we upconvert it with this proprietary AI that we've built to add all of the detail. So like you will literally, to play Eureka, you will just see an image of a forest in front of you. You know, there's a valley and there's a forest. And to play it, you just tell your character what to do. The controls are also based off AI. They're an LLM. And so you'll just like see a hill and you'll say, walk to the top of that hill. And then you'll wait and your character will walk to the top of that hill because you want it to see over the forest tree line in front of you. And then you'll look and you say like, oh, you know, there's a river all the way that way, like that. I'm going that way, right? And you'll tell your character, hey, just like walk north through the forest. And then you could just go back to work, right? Because this game is always going. It's always on. You can't hold forwards all day. We all have jobs and lives and shit to do. And so you can tell your character, just go north through the forest, and then you go back to work. But you could keep a headphone in, and you would be listening in real time to the nature sounds. You'd hear when they get to the forest, because you would hear all of a sudden the sound of the bugs and the animals and the wind in the trees. You'd hear their footsteps quietly on the forest floor. But you're in your work meeting, and you're doing your job. And then 30 minutes later or something, let's say you hear a stream. You're like, nice, my guy hasn't found water in a few days. So you're like still in your work meeting, but you're under the table on your phone. You're like, hey, go refill your water at that stream and try to catch a fish. And then right back to work you go. And then you hear a little bit later the plop of the lure into the water. And you hear splash, splash, splash. You're like, cool, they got their fish. I can check back in later. That is playing Eureka. We have created this game that is not only competing for playtime against no other games, right? If you're going to play a shooter, you're not playing another shooter at the same time. You have to pick, right? But you can play Eureka in the 2 minutes while you're in queue for the next game, and maybe it'll help you chill out, right, from that like sweaty game you just lost. But we're not only competing for playtime with no other game in somebody's life, we're competing for playtime with no other activity in your day, period, right? It's like you can play Eureka while you're walking down the street and running errands. You could send your character a text message just to check in on them, or just play, right? You can be on the beach reading a book, playing Eureka. Playing my game is just us occupying a little bit of your mind throughout your day, because the game mostly is just making decisions and starting to build something for yourself in this kind of parallel life.
Is there risk associated with that? Because you mentioned, like, I'm thinking about that creek moment. Like, what if when I told my character to go down and go fishing, there was like a grizzly bear that also wanted to go fishing at the same time? Like, is there turmoil there?
Oh yeah, you can't have real reward without real risk. I think that that's actually something that might become known as a fundamental truth for Web3 game design in retrospect a few years from now, is that, you know, everyone is trying to solve this problem. It's like, okay, how do we give rewards to people and make it so that everybody's a winner, right? Like, okay, you get a headshot, you get some of our token, you get this, you do this, you get some token, you do this, right? And then they're trying to do these token sinks to get people to not just sell the token because all this stuff. The answer might be you can't. Like, the real answer might be you cannot just have everybody win real rewards from playing. Right? More like, and so I think the core to this new typology of video game that involves real money can't just be real rewards. It has to equally be real risk. And so everything in Eureka can be lost, down to your characters. You can play with as many characters as you want. Every character in Eureka starts off the exact same. These are your core NFTs. You can mint your characters in NFT, same as your businesses, same as this cool twig you found. Anything in Eureka, you can make an NFT to sell it or to stick it in your ledger or whatever, right? But your characters all start the exact same. And from the moment you get to Eureka, every mile you walk, they get a little bit faster. Every time you chop a tree down, they get a little bit better. They're leveling up the 5 skills involved in being good at swinging your axe and knowing how to fell a tree so that it doesn't hit, all that stuff, right? Every time you climb up an incline and you maybe almost trip, but then you don't, you become more sure-footed and then you're less likely to trip the next time, right? You're getting better and better and better at all of this stuff.
Like a real-time RPG.
Yes. And the back end of the game of how stuff happens, think of it like real-time D&D, right? So it's just dice rolls, right? So like, did you slip? Let's look at your stats that are relevant to the slipping. Let's look at the stats for this location. Is the ground wet? How steep is it? Are you right? Are you like hungry and lightheaded? Like, you just look at all the stuff. There's a threshold. You do a dice roll. Did it happen? That's it. It's like incredibly simple at its core, but that allows emergent complexity. So your character, if that bear attacked you, the whole game is basically designed. The core gameplay philosophy is, if you're not playing, we automate. And if you're not playing and your character encounters that bear, the LLM driving your character is going to make its best decision of what to do in the moment. Maybe the bear attacks. We're going to do some dice rolls, right? Did it catch you? Did you pull out your gun in time and shoot it? How good are you with your gun in the first place, right? And what'll happen. But if you are playing, you can outperform. That's always the trade-off, right? And so you could have made a decision to say, okay, that forest full of bears that I need to cross, right? But then I know from other people in this town on the edge of this forest, everyone's telling me, hey, there's a lot of bears in that forest. You could wait to cross it until you have a few hours where you can actively play the game, just so that you could really, really be careful, right? But if that bear kills you, your character dies. Dead.
That's so crazy, dude.
Look, from the tokenomics of it, where it's good for the economy of character supply, for there to be something that removes characters from the game, all the way to the just power of the emotional moment for you of losing this person for real is incredible. And attaching money to it just makes that more powerful, right? But so if your character dies, basically, we just generate an obituary for you, which will be more or less epic depending on everything that character has done in their life, right? And we will publish it and give you the NFT of it. So you get something cool.
A little commemorative moment.
And you can only get that if your character dies, right? So there's, and that is a collectible. And if your character had an amazing life, that obituary, is kind of a cool thing, right? It's also like a moment where what you've done becomes public, which is also cool. But that character could be someone you've played with for 2 years, and they could be like the most amazing gold mining foreman, right? And gone. Just gone.
But he slipped. Yeah.
Dude, I want to say something real quick.
Shit happens.
Did you see, Jordan, that actually, I should say this first. I am like fawning over this, and I think anyone listening and watching might see that. I want to specify that there is no transaction happening here. We got paid nothing to have this conversation. I am genuinely very interested in what you're saying. I don't know if you saw that interview that happened a few weeks ago. It went viral of John Bernthal interviewing Deborah Ann Wolf about D&D, and he was like,
No.
"Hey, I don't have any idea about D&D. Like, how does that game actually work?" Like, and instead of telling him, she like just, and the two of them having a podcast, basically just gave him a moment where she like, "Okay, let's play right now." And they played for like 30 seconds, and he got so enamored in it. I've never played D&D, never one round, but I feel like you got to go watch that interview later, because I feel like
I got to go check it out.
Where I am deeply enamored by what you guys are doing. And I think you made a really great point earlier about, hey, maybe Web3 gaming needs to press into what we actually can create here that is different than what we can create in Web2 gaming, instead of trying to trick everyone and hide it. And I don't know the answer. We've had a lot of really cool games on that want to make sure that every Web3 blockchain mechanic is totally hidden behind the scenes. I understand that approach. We don't know which approach is going to be right, because nobody's succeeded in going mainstream yet. But I do think this is a really—
and multiple approaches will probably be right in different ways, right?
Yeah. And I think this is a really, really unique proposition, though, to say, hey, here is something that could have never happened as a game before Web3 gaming existed. We're going to try it. We're going to be open about it. We're going to be excited about it. I can't tell you the number of conversations that I've had, like with my own brothers, who are not super well known in Web3 gaming, but do love crypto and do love video games. And we've talked about, like, dude, imagine if like blockchain gaming or AI in gaming could make this thing happen or that thing happen. And these are the type of things that we've imagined, like these new ways to play RPGs, new ways to get lost in a world. That's exactly what you guys are crafting. So I'm fangirling a little bit. And this is really the first deep dive I've had. I'm curious on that, though, because you guys are creating something so new. It feels like most of the time, if I'm going to introduce a game to my friends who maybe are not native to this space, I'll say something like, hey, Shrapnel is the like Call of Duty of Web3, or Sparkball is the League of Legends in Web3, or like, but you guys feel like you're crafting something so unique. There maybe isn't a lot to compare and contrast with. How would you introduce that to someone who maybe wants that mental image in their mind so they could understand what you're building?
I would just say exactly what I said to you guys. I would say that there is an 8th continent out there that is full of all the real opportunity you could hope for, and just come check it out. You don't need any prior knowledge to play this game. I'm kind of arguing, and I really haven't had anyone push back, which might just be the collective bag holding mentality that we have in this industry. But I think I might be building the easiest to play video game in history, that you just look at a hill and say, walk to the top of that hill. That's it. Like, everyone can do that for the most part on this planet. And the whole game is just, it's 1850 and it's an empty continent. You don't have to be from the US. No matter where you're from in the world, for the most part, you have a good sense of your area's pre-industrial age, right? We, as a species, find it a very interesting time in history. It's so different from now. We're all familiar with it already. I just like start describing this game to someone, and they're like, "Oh, could I do this?" And the answer is yes. Like, every time, the answer is yes, because they're just like thinking of stuff that they would do if they were back in 1850. And so it's a game with maybe the least barrier to entry of any game ever, with a very straightforward proposition of real value and opportunity, which I think is a really powerful combination. And the reason why I wanted to build something unique is I've always felt like blockchain gaming is kind of like a new gaming console. And we all know from our lives, like, if there's a game that you want to play and there's only one way to play it, you will travel for that game, is kind of how I think about it, right? You'll buy the console or you'll download the emulator. People now don't realize, back you know, in like, let's say like the first Xbox era or something like that, right? Like you would buy this thing and you would take it home and you would unbox it. Like you were not playing that thing until tomorrow. Like it was a nightmare. And then like you got that game disc again, at least 6 hours before that thing was actually running. You had some download you had to download. Your internet was super slow. Like onboarding friction isn't actually a deal breaker in video games at all. Someone just has to really want to do the thing. And that's why I'm making something that's totally different, that doesn't exist. Because then if you want to play it, it's the only one to play. Right? If you want to play a battle royale shooter, and here's a bunch of Web 2 ones that you already have installed and can already play because you're feeling like playing, you know, Warzone or something. And then here's a Web 3 one where it's kind of the same game, and sure, there's real money, but like you just wanted to play the game, and you have to do all these things and learn all these things to even get what you're doing and why you would play that one. You're probably just going to play Warzone. It's already on your PlayStation, set up, ready to go. Your friends are already in it. You have your skins are like. I understand the logic of building popular game types that have mass appeal and mass demonstrated audiences, but you are also throwing yourself into the most competitive possible crowded field. And if someone sees Eureka on a bus stop, or they have a friend that tells them about this game that's just like an actual continent, and it's 1850 and there's a gold rush, and they are interested in that, we're the game in town, period. And to play Eureka, all you literally do is just go to one of the 100 different places you'll be able to play the exact same game and just start walking around. Like, it's not hard, you know?
So I have a question here. Because with infinite possibilities also come infinite possibilities. We're in 1850. We just arrived to the 8th continent. Is everyone starting in the same place? Like, is everyone starting in the same point? If I play for a week and then I fall to my death off a hill because I didn't see that there was a ledge there, do I start over from 1850 at the starting point that I did with my other character? Is everything happening in real time? So 10 years from now, it will no longer be 1850. Now it will be 1860. Is that how it's going to work?
10 years from now, it will more likely be like 1900.
Okay, so it's working faster than real time.
This is a place where you got to make a call somewhere that it's still a video game, right? And so the moment-to-moment time is in perfectly real time. How often does your character need to eat and drink water and sleep? Normal, often, right? Keeps it really, really simple to understand. Someone playing the game and they're eating lunch, be like, right, wait, my character probably wants lunch, right? Like it makes it really, really simple. There's a reason that back when we had Tamagotchis, that those things were on normal human time scale, right? Because it made it possible to easily remember, oh, wait, I have, even though we all forgot and killed our Tamagotchis, right? But like it was easy to right. That is an inspiration here. But at the same time, it can't take a year to build a boat. And so as we get to higher timescale items, we're going to make it a little looser. We're like, to build a building or to build a boat or something like that, we're kind of going to do like 1 year equals 1 month for construction time. So to build your house, maybe that'll take a week if you're building a little cabin of real world time. And if it would have been a month, you know what I mean? But in terms of the year on the calendar, that's going to progress more like technological ages in a game like Civ or Age of Empires or any of these other games, where it's more about the available technology defining what era we're in. Because we do want to let this kind of move along a bit.
So will there come a day that like the technology is becoming more modern? Like, can I become a mafia lord 4 years from now?
So let me describe in like more specific detail how this kind of will work, right? So there will become a moment where, so in the start, the only thing in the ground is gold, right? There's plenty of other resources, right? It's not just the 70 billion gold nuggets in the ground in Eureka. Every tree is wood. That's an actual commodity worth something to be and can be used for all sorts of stuff, right? There's all this food. There's all these other things. At some point, we will hit a button and just all of a sudden, iron and coal distributions will just appear underground. Maybe where you had a gold mine already, you got lucky. Maybe you didn't, but maybe all this other land that other people have all of a sudden has stuff in it that's really valuable, right? With iron and coal, you get steam power. You can have railroads. So there will basically be...
Then it transitions from the gold rush to the railroad race.
Right. Well, while the gold rush is still going on, all of a sudden now, people can start building railroad tracks across each other's land, paying for that privilege. People start manufacturing railroad cars. All of a sudden, original railroads didn't move fast. What's valuable about a railroad is it's an incredibly reliable way to move a gigantic amount of stuff from point to point, right? Instead of it being covered wagons moving at, horse walking speed across great distance, where you're very exposed, bandits, other players, other people can come in and steal from you, or you get lost and you starve to death. Of course. There's no character classes in Eureka. If you want to do illegal stuff, you just start doing illegal stuff. And what illegal means is, defined by players anyway. And just don't get caught. Your stats are private. That's your private information. The oil barons were called robber barons for a reason. The successful oil barons, they went out at night with gangs and burned down their competitors' oil fields. You could do that in Eureka. And then you don't want somebody talking to you, be like, why has he got such high arson stats? What's going on there, right? That's your info. They don't know you're good at this, right? You're a respectable oil tycoon. But so a railroad is a way safer way to move a previously impossible quantity of things great distance. And so that opportunity, if everything is like actually real distance apart with actually real risk, right? If it's not just that it would take a month to get somewhere, but that 800 things could go wrong to either kill you or steal your things or get you lost, or it's just hard to travel, right? Then that's how much more valuable a railroad becomes once it exists. And so after that's been going for a while, right? Maybe we're a year and a half into the game. We're like, it's railroad time. Let's move forwards in age, right? So we do that, and now there's steam power, now there's railroads. The next time we do it, hit another button, and all of a sudden there's copper in the ground. Copper plus steam power equals electrification. All of a sudden, people are building power plants.
We're getting into the industrial revolution.
Stringing up actual copper electrical lines, one to one building at a time, with fall off at distance, just happening. And so like that, we will just kind of forwards, into a new era of the game. In terms of where that's going as what is the end state, because I'm designing this game to be something where I've kind of got a decade planned, but that the plan would be that at the end of that decade, we very organically have handed it over fully to the community, where we have the in-game Congress of players taking votes in the Capitol, in the actual, Capitol building, about allocating server costs to support the game, where it's just a fully player-controlled world. What's the end state of that? I don't really want to say. I will just say that it's not Earth. This is its own place. It's just similar. And that means that technological progress won't necessarily happen in the same order in the same place. And I will just say that probably my favorite aesthetic ever in stories is that kind of early 1900s airship steampunky sort of thing. And it would be pretty cool if we got to airships in Eureka. Think of how valuable that could be to reliably float above all of the danger from place to place at a faster speed. it would be cool to build that world, you know? So we'll see.
Steampunk spaceships maybe someday. Maybe the true Eureka is the 8th planet we're going to go to.
Well, the true Eureka is the friends you make along the way. But yeah, I mean, think of a rocket ship in Eureka. Think of a rocket ship where to build that thing, you are leveraging the infrastructure and collective combined output of 10,000 different players' work. I forget the actual number, but you can find out to build like the Apollo program, like the first Saturn rockets. I think it involved like 100,000 people's work. From mining the raw materials to processing the raw materials to the infrastructure logistics of shipping them to all the different places where they were actually combining those materials and manufacturing different components to then the shipping of those to the one place where then all these people were then assembling it and providing all their expertise and the academics and all the scientists and like all of that collectively. Think of that in Eureka with all of that private industry all adding up and then people competing to attempt to build a rocket successfully that won't blow up, leveraging all of that money and time and characters and skill and resources to attempt to build something like a single object of a rocket to maybe get to a moon that is full of resources totally organically, right? That would be pretty wild.
That would. And back to the idea of like with infinite possibilities, there is literally infinite possibilities. I not only can't help just to imagine this as a game, but also like a huge social experiment of how others will be interacting with other people. And we've seen in other areas of other games or other experiments where you give people a chance to be whoever they want. Not everyone decides to be the best version of themselves that will help the greater whole. Are there any restrictions, or will people be able to really just do whatever they want and tell their characters to do whatever they want that can prohibit or can slow down the progress of other people, whether it is going out on them like destroying everybody's land or going out and killing important people in the town? Like, I can imagine a lot of these stuff can get really, really crazy really quickly when you give people ultimate freedom. Have you guys thought about things like this?
So this is another place where I really think just having permadeath for characters creates a situation where this problem can self-regulate in a way that it always kind of fails to in video games, because we've all been there, right? Where there's just too many people rolling around killing each other and doing all this crazy shit and you can't really play the game, right? If death is real, then it matters to not die a massive amount, right? So it actually matters. If it's a massive consequence, then it will actually matter to people to pay other Eurekans to act as sheriffs, to act as secure, right? And like you will be able to command, since death is so punishing, your fee for catching someone who's killing people will be that much higher because like people are actually trying to protect their lives here. That will mean that way more players will jump at that opportunity to be on the right side of the law there. It means much more opportunity for good fences and locks on your doors and and police forces. It means that it's worth it for people to vote to incorporate, like local landowners to vote to incorporate as a town and start to collect a local tax so that they can build a road to the larger economic center that's like a day and a half away and hire security to patrol it constantly so that there's actually a safe passage from that town to you, because then you will actually get a bunch of players coming and it'll spur economic activity in your town. It makes all of that worthwhile if there is actual death. And then the skill leveling system serves to balance that further, where a level 1 character that's just entered into the game, if you tell them like, okay, we're going to go and we're going to find that important person, we're going to kill him. That person's a level, like, again, it's not specifically like level 1 or level 200 or whatever, right? If that's a level 200 character who's gotten in plenty of gunfights in their life, and you tell your level 1 character, shoot them, in the moment your character even goes for their gun, that other guy would have sensed it, quick drawn, popped you in the head, and gone back to whatever they were doing in their day. The better you are at the game, which happens organically just by surviving, right? The longer your character and you can have a bunch of different characters, but the longer a character just exists in the world in Eureka, the better at it they will get. So your character becomes less likely to die the longer they've survived. And so this kind of balances this stuff where you can feel like a badass for real. You're sitting in that saloon, right? And you've got your big deal character there, and someone walks in and pulls a gun. Your guy picks them off before they walk through the door, and back to your whiskey you go. You don't have to worry about it. But what if that guy who just walked through the door is a very high level, very known, reputation precedes them bad guy? Then you got to be wary and you should pay attention. Just like in the movies, just like we all want it to feel, to walk in as that bandit that has the reputation, and maybe you have a specific hat on or a specific a thing that you wear. You have something to let people recognize who you are, and you love that about it, right? Like it enables all of that. All you need to do is be willing to allow there to be real risk.
And with this idea, because you mentioned like some examples of certain projects, like building a rocket ship, needing a massive amount of player power,
which is crazy that we even got to this, because that's so yeah.
That's
pretend I said none of that.
10 years from now in real life.
Yeah.
But with this idea in mind, like even building a ship, needing a massive amount of people means that this kind of game with this kind of vision will require a lot of people to be able to play the game. With that in mind, thinking about a photorealistic game kind of like seems contradicting. Like, hey, if we're going to need a lot of people, that means not everyone's going to have the highest NPC or highest end specs. How will this game with a photorealistic vision in mind actually be able to work on a lot of different devices to allow this kind of ecosystem to actually exist?
The answer to this is like it's a multi-part answer. The first simplest part of the answer. So the reason that we're doing this AI viewport creation in the first place is to optimize for scale. Part of the reason why games like Star Citizen have still not actually fully come out at all is because if you're trying to build a whole universe that's photorealistic, you need to make these photorealistic assets for everything, right? And you need massive server infrastructure to be able to load and interact with these photorealistic assets for everything. Our 3D game world is a lightweight, hyper-optimized Unity map. All of the characters moving around it are stick figures, just bopping around. It's like a live board game. It's really lightweight. We then let the end user in that last moment generate the photorealism of it. But like you're saying, generating an AI image is a heavy process, right? On a decent graphics card right now, you're with the current version of our tech, it's about a frame every 2 seconds. Honestly, fantastic. Totally playable for how we're designing the game to work. There's two sides there. So the two sides for this are design a game that works effectively with players experiencing it at different frame rates. One, right? If you're not even looking at the thing and you're just listening, we don't even need to generate frames for you. You're getting the game in perfectly real time and just playing it through audio. The second side to it is this technology is incredibly new, and the smartest people on the planet are all competing against each other to improve it as fast as they possibly can. And every single time they make that tech better, my game gets better. We're using Stable Diffusion right now, but like the proprietary part of our algorithm isn't in the initial image generation algo. It's in all the stuff we're doing to make sure that we're only inventing detail, but not imagining anything. AI is great at making a photorealistic image, but it's going to make up a bunch of shit. It's actually really complicated to make sure that if you see a tree in the image, in the AI image, that there's actually a tree there, and that that's actually where it is. Because if somebody cuts that tree down, its resources, it can't be there anymore. If you see a mountain in the distance and you see a cliff sticking out of the side of it, when you get to that mountain, you could make a 3-week-long plan that you want to get up onto that cliff. That cliff has to be there. The AI image generation could have been like, oh, here's a cool looking mountain, right? This is something that we've gotten really, really far at, and we're only going to keep improving it. But we can swap out Stable Diffusion for another image generator. We can swap out ChatGPT for Claude if Claude is currently better. It's all the stuff after that that's what we own, right? And so I love that the best people on the planet are competing against each other to make my game better all the time. The third side to this is a much bigger thing. which is this game, the successful version of this game, will potentially be one of the larger generators of AI imagery that exist, right? If there's 1 million people playing this game, generating at that point multiple frames per second, that's a gigantic amount of AI image generation happening, right? And so the real answer to that is something that you can do with blockchain, which is that we could build in L1 a Eureka chain that allows us to do distributed rendering, where we, in a P2P manner, allow anybody with graphics hardware who wants to plug their computer into the network and passively earn gold nuggets by generating parts of frames for people. That is the permanent long-term answer, because that is a scalable solution. That doesn't involve us onboarding more server capacity. That's an incentive structure for someone like NVIDIA, who is providing cloud rendering infrastructure as a service, to just by themselves decide they want to plug their server farm into the Eureka chain in order to start earning our token passively, is one of the things they're doing with it, right? All of our hardware is going to become more specialized towards AI as we move forward, because it's a huge use case. So that means like anyone who can totally, separately on their own, can decide to make money by helping the players who can't see the game. And they'll earn that money from those players' gold nugget balances. I love the idea of a game where there's enough real opportunity in it that you're actually like paying small amounts of money to be able to see and play the thing in the first place on a constant basis. I think that's really cool. And I think that that's kind of thing that's only possible with blockchain.
Yeah, it's the power of decentralization. And I think that's a great segue to talk about what specifically you guys are enabling in Web3 and with blockchain. So like right now, when the game gets to a playable state and people are playing it every day, what is actually utilizing blockchain?
So the best version of Eureka is fully on chain. That doesn't mean that that's what we're going to start with. This tech is improving at an insane pace. I do not think that any of the what will be the best practices for blockchains and the best blockchains for gaming and the best smart contract structures and all of this stuff, I don't think any of it exists today. I don't think any of it will exist for a few years. So we are starting by building Eureka not on chain and just integrating with blockchain. And the core logic structure of that will remain the same even once more of our infrastructure goes on chain. And so the core logic of it is every single bit of your property in Eureka, from your characters and your businesses to a cool shovel you have or a flower you found somewhere, all of that property can be minted. You can withdraw it out of the game as an NFT. You can do that onto whatever blockchain you want. I literally want every blockchain that has any users to be a minting option for this. You mint it as an NFT, you do whatever you want with it. And then whenever somebody buys that from you, they can then take it and deposit it back into the game, which burns the NFT and switches ownership of the in-game asset to this new player. It's that simple. With that allows us to constantly adapt to new NFT standards, right? There's some new ERC standard that people are using. We just update our minting algorithm to this new ERC standard, and we maintain backwards compatibility for the old one for as long as there is at least one NFT that was minted with it still out there. Easy. Constantly we can add new blockchains. Constantly we can update our tech. No worries about that. Players can find liquidity where they want. Let's say you minted your bank onto Ethereum and you listed it on OpenSea and nobody bought it because, of course. And then it turns out, Avalanche just launched 3 new NFT games. They're doing a big push and there's a main AVAX marketplace for these. Deposit your NFT back into the game, remint your bank onto AVAX, go list it there, find your buyer. It also lets us do something that I think is really important. That is a huge problem for Web3 gaming, which is just customer support. You know, if somebody's playing Call of Duty and they spend $20 on a skin for their gun and they log into the game the next week and the skin is gone, they're like, what the hell? And they go to Activision support, and Activision support's like, oh, what's your seed phrase security? Like, sorry, like we minted 30 of those. We can't make a 31st. Sucks to suck. Like, that's terrible. All we do in that moment is verify their identity and that they are the person whose thing that was. And then we just break the connection between that NFT that's floating out there and its ability to activate the in-game item. That's its value. Its value is that it's the thing in the game that functions and can be used. So when we break its connection to that, it's now just an NFT floating out there, whatever. You know, maybe there's some, like, it's like Web3, you know, Web3 ethos, like, part of the whole thing is no matter what the game does, you still have this NFT that could still be a collectible, right? So like that actually gets to still follow that. Whatever asshole hacked that out of your wallet, they still have this collectible NFT, right? I'm not trying to take it from them. But as far as the game goes, you can now just remint a new one. It's easy. I think that's really, really powerful. And then in terms of like getting Eureka on chain, I think we have some cool reasons for why blockchain and gaming that are different. Because yes, you know, own your assets, right? But like, it's kind of a BS argument in some ways, right? Like people selling their CS:GO skins own them just fine, right? Like owning as far as it was yours, and then someone paid you money, and now you have that money and it's theirs. Like you own it. The utility of ownership is in owning its value, right? You don't have to actually own the object to own the value that can be gotten from it. And two, if the game shuts down its servers, the game's gone anyway, right? So it's like kind of nonsense. But here's a cool reason why blockchain game. I think of it as something I'm like kind of describing as provable neutrality. That let's say in Eureka, lightning strikes a tree in a forest and the tree catches on fire and it starts a forest fire, right? And this area of the forest burns down. And there were 4 players with businesses in that forest. And in that forest fire, we destroyed 2 years of these 4 players' work and 5 million USD in real world value. Gone. There can't be any question in anyone's mind that I like hit a button and it was like, screw these guys, haha. Right? Right. And so what better way to do that than it all being on chain? That there was an on-chain random number generation for the dice roll, that here's the algorithmically, you know, generative weather based on the local geography. There's a mountain range over here, and there's a whole forest over here, and there's a bay over here. And so thunderstorms spawn here just by how weather works. And there was a dice roll on chain that created the lightning strike that happened to hit this tree, that the tree combusted, the trees next to it caught on fire, just totally organically. It just happened like it's the real world. Blockchain makes that something where you don't need to trust anyone to believe that that's true. It makes it just true, just like in the real world, the trees burned down. So I think as a long-term goal, it is the final element to making Eureka really actually a real place that you can actually put your hopes and your dreams and part of your opportunity for your life into, which is very cool.
Don't build your business in a forest, and if you do, make sure you tell your guy.
There's only one place to put sawmills, but
put buckets of water around your business.
I have a bunch of players that want to sell. I have a player that rolled in really, really early. They've been in my community over a year at this point. They sell insurance in the real world, and when they got in, they were like, "You keep saying that shit can burn down all over the place. Can I sell business insurance? That's what I do." And I was like, "You absolutely can do that."
There we go. I do have a question here for any listener that's been staying with us in this conversation and really fell in love with the idea of Eureka, not only from the game aspect, but also the user aspect, and also ensuring from the aspect of like distributed or decentralized processing and rendering. how do you imagine each individual person that is interested in helping Eureka become a reality actually interact with one another? And when will they actually be able to start interacting with Eureka in those specific ways? From the player actually being able to play the game to someone who has a lot of processing power trying to make Eureka a reality. When will these things all be available? And when should people be able to look for these things?
Well, let's talk about half of that question, because the part of it where we've built a blockchain to allow decentralized rendering, that comes later. There's plenty of other ways to play this game beforehand, including maybe the first version of this pre-game that we're building. We do just let people see the underlying game world, right? And we save that AI rendering for a little later. I don't want to do that, but I'm not opposed to letting someone decide for themselves instead of saying no to someone, right? But in terms of getting evolved, Eureka's going already. Our first players have 1849 IDs because they signed up last year. It's currently 1850 in Eureka. The Eurekan auction house just held the first half of its first auction. We've had players for months and months and months already prospecting for gold nuggets on the great frontier of Eureka on X, right? This is something I think blockchain Web3 incentive structures allow us to do something way better than before that is so powerful that it's like everyone should be doing it, which is, why would you build something in a way where you just go away, you need a whole bunch of money, and then you go away and you take this huge risk and you disappear for a few years and you come back and say, I hope you like it. Why not build a game in a way where we're already playing it together the whole time? I realized when I first started doing these gold nugget give outs, and just the way that people were talking about it, like they were saying how much fun they were having. They're like, another day prospecting for nuggets, hope I do well in the mines today, right? Like, and I was like, oh, like, we're already playing the game. People are already doing it. Who's to say what Eureka is? We're already playing it in a way. And what's more powerful to demonstrate to people that we can build a successful Web3 game that a bunch of people will get excited about and want to play than by doing it already? And I would argue I already have a Web3 game that has 13,000 players playing it, because they are, right? Like, it is gameplay. And so we're going to be leaning into this more and more and more as we go to really, really pull forwards the line of when has the game started already, right? How do you play it? All sorts of ways, right? It's this one journey that we're all on together. And like, thinking about it this way, it feels like other ways of building games are actually really underpowered relative to this. And I think this is the way, is to just, here's the thing you want to build, but what could you have working yesterday, right? Let's do that now. Let's all have fun with that now and go from that to this later thing, together.
Phenomenal, man. You are an optimist. You are a visionary. I see why you have bought into Web3. Man, it reminds me of a speech I listened to from, I don't even remember who, someone at Permissionless a long time ago that got me so excited about this space. I think you've tapped into why Web3 gaming should exist in the first place. And I, for one, am excited to set sail. If people want to set sail, and I was just thinking about, dude, a little tangent there. I grew up in like one of the most historic California gold rush towns in American history. This type of thing was way more ingrained into my brain at like 6 years old than I think probably the average kid in America. So for me, it's already fascinating. But I keep thinking about, in your insurance thing, nailed it on the head. I keep thinking about like, man, should I really even go out and mine for gold, or should I just build shovels and sell those to the guys mining for gold? Like,
most people playing Eureka won't mine for gold. They'll do all the other stuff.
I think there's so many cool opportunities in the world that you're building that, for me, dude, I want to get started. And you have a good point on getting started and what that even looks like. So for anyone listening right now, where should they go immediately following this to say, you know what, I'm ready for Eureka. I'm ready to
go to eureka.game. You click sign up at the top, takes you to the Eureka Citizenship Registrar. You just put your email in, and you make a password, and you come up with your 1850s character name, obviously, and you've made your ID. These IDs are numbered in the order that they're made, and they are dated on the date in 1850, assuming it's still 2024, that the ID was made. And then you're going. You can go collect some gold nuggets on Twitter. You can sign up other Eurekans. You get 3 nuggets per Eurekan that you sponsor. We have coming up, I don't know when this episode is coming out, but it's August 27th right now. And next week, Wednesday the 5th, I think, the second half of our ship auction is starting, where you can, instead of bidding with nuggets, now you can bid with USDC across a ton of different blockchains. Every time we sell something, we are going to first give some of them away for nuggets and then do the rest with money. And this will allow us to kind of always have a new phase of the gold nugget game going, where your goal is you're getting them because you can use them in this next auction. And it means that every time we sell something, we get to split it, where we do a first part where we are prioritizing and valuing the community members who are participating the most and playing it the most and doing it. And then we also get to do the part that the project needs, where we get to make some money. And I really like that balance between the two. And so just hop in. It is very, very easy and requires very little to just get in here and start. And you don't have to keep playing to have locked in your sub 20,000 citizen ID, right? That takes 15 seconds. Or to get your sub 50,000 gold nugget and then just hold on to that thing forever, right? Because now we're talking about sub 50K nuggets, which is insane. Just come on in and check it out and do what you want, and don't do the other shit.
Well said, man. I'm excited. Wherever you are listening from, you can find a link right here to get yourself. Maybe I'll cheat and throw my I didn't know I could get
sponsorship link in
there. Maybe I'll cheat and throw it in here and grab it before Caesar does. So thank you so much, Jordan, for having this conversation with us. I am way more bullish about what you guys are building right now than I was an hour ago. I think you have got one of the coolest games underway that really does prove the value of blockchain. It has a potential to prove the value of blockchain to millions of people. And I think that's fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Thanks for being excited about Eureka and for having me.
Heck yeah, man.
Yeah.
We'll see you next time on 100X.